All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We're speaking to the young leaders in the society to find out whether they have alternatives, what their direction is going forward, what their focus is, what their priorities are. Two main questions are coming up here. Has the politics of Kenya really changed, and will the money affect the way the young people will vote? My guests are still with me here. Jerika Higa, she's a youth leader. Thank you for making time. Faith Ken, also a youth advocate. Asante sana for making time. Joining us now is Dr. Baraza Derrick, Secretary Political Affairs, KANU. Thank you very much for making time. Omondi Koyo is here, Secretary General, National Liberal Party, and Kasmul Makoure, ODM Youth League. Thank you for making time. So, Dr. Baraza, before you came in, we were talking about the front page of the Daily Nation, the money bags issue, and we were asking that, is this tokenism or empowerment for young people when we see politicians giving money in different occasions, whether they're meeting youth groups, whether they're meeting women groups? The Daily Nation is reporting upwards of 100 million shillings having been donated by the Deputy President in the last 2 months. Is that tokenism or empowerment in your view?
Many thanks, Trevor, for this grand opportunity to be here, and I really apologize for coming late. I had some issues with work, and so clearly the issue of tokenism is something that is not new to the Kenyan space. I mean, we see it everywhere, but we see it in different outfit. Today is CDF. Just the other day we were discussing in CDF and what. That's another way that tokenism comes up. The other way is by carrying sacks of money and giving out to people. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, what we do understand about this is it has been a vestigial method by the government to be able to kick out young people from politics. But I'm not here just to talk about young people and all this. I'm here to talk about democracy in its very existence. You see, democracy is made on the philosophy of two things: to be able to allow people to participate, but also to contest, to be able to challenge power. In the very first instance, if we are able, as people in this room and you yourself, Trevor, to participate effectively in a democracy, you need the second pillar, that is the ability to contest. But what happens when you do not have the money? An election right now in Kenya, we know, someone gave out the figures, is about 1 billion shillings running just an election within a space of a year. I mean, that could change if at all you're doing it for the next 2 years and 2 months that we have to the election. How many young people will be able to stand for president? I've had many faces, particularly on the show here, discussing how they want to stand for president. I think Maliba was here the other day. I believe there might be a face in this room that wants to stand for president or so. How many people are able to raise that money? So in the first instance, they are ostracizing young people from politics. It's becoming a preserve of the rich, which is not, in any way, that does not work according to the real tenets of democracy.
But why do they need that much money anyway to begin?
You see, it is not a mistake that our democracy is the way it is. And I don't want to sound like we are demanding of it to be any better. The only thing that we want to be exercised is that people are represented. But so I do not want to start lamenting about the issue of money, that money has changed politics and all that. That's how democracies are everywhere. Even if you go to the India or the US or everywhere, that's how democracies are. What we should be looking at is to try and get young people to be supported, to be backed by political parties, by be mentored to get into the space so that they can be able to challenge the status quo. Our discussion should not be about getting power. It should be about using that power. Now, you see, politics, just like religion, is the opium of the masses. When the masses breathe in politics, they get confused. So I know many people out there are going to use money in whatever way they want to use it. And it's not a mistake if they want to use money. But I do want to sound so academic. I just want to point it out that politics is something that we have to really understand, that we are trying to build better for the country. And in the grand scheme of things, we should just understand that we're trying to give the very best to the public out there.
Yeah. Faith, do you think money will affect how the young people will vote?
Trevor, before I answer that, there is something I really wanted to add before we went on a break. You know, we are the same people that we are talking about how time is money, how we value our time, how we need paid up opportunities, how, you know, young people, we're being engaged, but are we being really engaged on meaningful conversations, or we're only needed when it's charity? Right now, Trevor, when you're called for a job for somewhere in Migori or Mombasa, you're going to get paid because you've used your time to get there. You left your job or something to go there. So I don't see a problem when young people, if you're called to some meeting and you demand to be paid to be there, because you had better things to do right? And now you're coming here to listen to someone to sell their agenda. So in empowerment meetings, or the ones they're dashing money for youth groups and all, it's okay. And I think young people should take those opportunities. You should take them. It depends with the mindset that you're going with there. Are you going because I need that money, or because it's a political money, I need to take it, or because I want this money to help me in something or to help my community? So
you think they're being paid for their time?
Yeah, it's okay to be paid for your time. I think it's okay to be paid for your time. And that is different from what I was saying, because you talked about tokenism. You know, you paid 1,000 shillings or 1,000 to be there. I feel I can call it appreciation, because in the village, if you call a mama for 3 hours, meaning for 3 hours, she won't have sales. You know, for 3 hours, her business is closed to attend to this meeting. You know, so what is she getting in return? And if it's just policies, how long will the implementation process take? You see, to compensate for that mama's time. So I feel it's not wrong to go there and actually take something because you've been given. You know, and if you also can give people a chance to just speak freely, like the young people who still maybe are just finding ground, it's also okay to sell your agenda without giving people something, or without them expecting too much. If that's work for you, good. But we shouldn't discourage them from taking this thing or from attending those meetings because we feel it's maybe stolen money, or it's some money that I don't know from somewhere. Yeah. So on the issue of if money will change the politics in 2027, I think nothing, not much will change. Not much will change, because the young people, I feel, we are not actually articulating our issues rightfully. We are so angry, we are venting, we are lamenting. But when it comes to giving strategic ideas of how, the plan, how are you going to take this government, or maybe to bring another person in? And the people we actually confront in the name of change, oh my God, we all know that is not how change looks like. You know, we all know the faces of change, but it doesn't look like the people we actually wanting to go or to stand with us.
And isn't that where the problem really is? Because first you can't even agree what change looks like among yourselves as young people. So
I feel the problem is we really don't know what we want for ourselves, because I feel the ideas, whatever we are talking about, is we don't want the old people into power. We are also forgetting the power of mentorship. You know, and we keep on saying the older people have taken our spaces, the older people don't want the young people. And I really feel where the competition is at is amongst ourselves, amongst our fears. What the whole generation have against us is fear, because we are energetic, we are smart, we still have the time, but it's not competition the way we are putting it. So for us, for myself, I feel we should actually partner with these people so that we can learn from them. We shall get these ideas from them. We should have a clear plan if we actually you're thinking about the change we want. But if the youth keep on having divided minds, nothing will happen. It's the same thing that happened with last year's protest. You know, it reached a point where what next? What next? Because yes, it has happened. What next from here? So I feel we are not talking. Even if you hear the conversations in social media, it becomes even so hard to engage with fellow young people, because it will be must go, one term, you know. But if you tell them why must go, why one term, and then what next, and what do you expect from the person coming in, and what is must go not doing okay that you as a young person feel should be done differently, you know, are we giving them time? And with our issues, what is the real challenge? So I feel we're not taking time to sit down and analyze where the issues are. Yeah. And chasing these people, the older generation, into this political space, it won't happen, and it won't change overnight. Right. Yes, generational change is happening, but are the young people ready for the change?
Yeah. Koyo, do you agree? Because the question Faith is asking is, are the young people ready for change? And she says that young people are angry and mostly venting, and they don't give alternatives. And isn't that the reason why it comes back to the question that I was asking you, that will money affect the way people vote? Because if at the end of it all, there's no central agenda among young people, there's no agreement on who the leader is, then it becomes every man for himself, God for us all. So let me take my money, vote for whoever I want, and leave.
I totally disagree with what Faith is saying, and it will be totally misleading to the young people if we were to accept the line of thinking that Faith is picking. Because, Trevor, when budgets are drawn, right now we are going to have the new 2025-2026 financial year budget drawn. I have not seen any single line where there is an allocation or budgetary allocation for what you call in quotes empowerment, and calling women groups or calling borders into factional groupings to say you are empowering them. Empowerment of Kenyan citizens are entrenched through structures of governance that are well articulated in our constitution. When you are talking about empowerment of the young people, this thing ought to be done through those established offices. We have the Youth Enterprise Fund, where all these funds are supposed to be channeled, and people can be accountable for the monies that have been allocated and how they've been spent. It is really embarrassing that as a young people, we still believe that if I attend a political gathering, then I must be paid. The moment a politician pays you to attend this political rally, he's already bought your vote. And therefore, he will not be accountable to you in the future, because he solidly believes it is his money that you want. But the question we should be asking, we've always demanded for transparency and accountability on how the national resources are being utilized. This accountability and transparency ought to come from the leaders whom we have entrusted to lead us in various offices. And it is upon us as the young people to request them to live by the standards and by the integrity of what our laws dictates. But because the politicians have mapped out largely on who the youths are, they know, number one, that we are jobless, and they'll continue keeping us jobless so that we may continue worshipping them. They know very well that we are hungry. They know that when we are getting out of schools or learning institutions, there are no job opportunities that are available for us. The best thing they can do is to continue keeping us in that situation so that we see them as our second gods. But we are saying, as a young people, we have liberated ourselves from that yoke of thinking that we are nothing unless they bless us with something. This tokenism is what is killing our politics. In developed democracies, Trevor, it is the people who really support political cause of their leaders that they wish to lead them. But here, we have made it as if it is a commercial enterprise, where if you are going to meet a leader, then you tell them, as our good sister is saying, that you must have what we call compensation for the opportunity cost. That if I have to attend a meeting, then I am doing you a favor as a leader to attend your meeting. They have really mapped it, and they've known that keep them hungry, keep them busy, keep them jobless, so that they do not have a voice of their own.
Okay.
But we are telling them, in as much as we are jobless, in as much as we are hungry, we have one important asset with us, that come 2027, Trevor, in all the situations that you've put us, we are not going to buy into the idea that you are giving us tokenism of 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings to fight each other, as she's rightly saying it, that the youths cannot have one place to advance agenda. We are actually committed to the cause. And the focus is on how are we going to get leaders of integrity and leaders who can actually champion the interest of the youth. If I were to ask this panel, if you read the manifesto of both the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza government, I have never seen any single line that says that the youth and the women and the people of Kenya shall be empowered through tokenism. The manifestos talk about industrialization of our country. The tokenism talks, not tokenism, but the manifestos talk about how they can give us better healthcare, how they can give us better education system. Education system is failing. The university funding model is failing. The healthcare system is failing. In the last 2 weeks, I think I saw the CS for Health, Aden Duale, saying that he doesn't even have money to pay doctors. Yet you are seeing people roaming around the country with billions of shillings stacked in sacks. And then we want to appreciate and clap for them that it is okay to attend such kind of functions and take 1,000 shillings as you claim that it is your right.
Okay.
I call upon the youth of this country. Please let us move away from this thinking that if you attend a political meeting, then you must be paid. It is your responsibility to ensure that you hold your leaders accountable for their actions and how they spend your resources.
All right. Kasmuel, will money change the way the young people vote in 2027? Will it even affect it in any way?
You know, I've been accused of always being loquacious. but I use words aplenty to answer simple things. I will give you the simple answer, and I'll give you a clumsy explanation why. Money will affect how the youth vote in 2027. That is one. But this is not because the youth are greedy. It is because that is how the political status quo is and has to be maintained. And when we are talking about the elections in 2027, I need us to look at this little book called The Constitution of Kenya. And I will be a bit clumsy because it has been a while since I engaged with it as much as we used to last year. When you speak about the representation of the people, which is in chapter 7, it says that we have the rights to exercise our political rights as envisioned under Article 38. In Article 38, I want to point you to a few things where it says that we are free to make political choices, to form, participate in the, or forming political parties, to campaign for a political party or cause. Part of the causes that have been very predominant in this current dispensation is a cause like Ruto must go. And I know it is a very touchy subject. Sometimes we ought not to say it, but it is a political cause. And this is why the young people are invested. If you're thinking about elections, the elections of the president and the election of members of the National Assembly has to happen the Tuesday every 5 years. If you think about it, if we are to be pedantic, elections should not even be in 2027. The elections should be next year. And now we get to a point where this book has been so frustrated, this book that we hold so sacred, has been so frustrated that if you're thinking about the presidency, when you're thinking about the qualifications, the A, B, and C, only part C is tenable to the young people, which says that we might envision a presidential election unless we have something, I think envisioned in Article 46, 146, I think, which is the vacancy of the office of the president. And you have seen this play out in social media where young people have put the president in a coffin. I don't believe that this is out of malice, but this is a reaction to the current status quo, because they have seen that constitutionally, everything, all the national values that we talk about in is it Article 10? And I have to read these things because sometimes it gets very painful. I'll read for you some of the national values. Patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy, participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice. I could go on. The reason why I'm bringing up these things is that there are a few individuals that I want to highlight who will make money and influence. They're trying to make us play the game of money and the game of tribe. When you hear yesterday, an activist and who I really deeply respect called Boniface Mwangi was dumped in Ukunda in Mombasa. While there are several problems I have with that, we can talk about our foreign policy. You had the aide to the president, Mr. Farouk, talking to people in South Mugirango and telling them, naona sasa watu wamechukua ile indiscipline yao, wametoa nyumbani, wamepeleka Tanzania. And I need to remind these people that the fundamental rights and freedoms that may not be limited under Article 25 are torture, cruel and inhuman degrading punishment. We have a right to fair trial, and there's something called habeas corpus, which means that the government must provide a public reason for the detention of certain people. When you hear a person who's the aide of the president, because when I come here, I speak for the Orange Democratic Movement Youth League. This is their official position. If Farouk Kibet can say such a thing and says, wafungwe wasifungwe, and then the crowd says wafungwe, he edges the crowd to say wafungwe, that is tantamount to the president saying that. When you're seeing the deputy president moving around, dishing out millions all over, that is the game they want, because they know all these people are qualified, but they cannot play this game of money. And I need to sound a very stern warning, and the other people I need to sound a stern warning are my party members, because these are people who are hoping to form government. And they did not capture power in 2022, and suddenly an opportunity was availed by the young people who went to agitate. And now they are so excited to be around these people that they forget what we stand for as a party, where we are now descending into these things, where we are just haggards. We are following around. The deputy president is here, all our MPs are here. Instead of doing the role that they're supposed to do of oversight, legislation, and representation, we've all just become hangers-on. it's like those people who you see on the vehicle and you slap them, you give them some money so that they can get off the vehicle. That is what our MPs have become, as if they have given up on the dream of forming government. The other group I need to warn is the group of the person I believe should not be anywhere near leadership, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who has beat the drums of war. You know, I was displaced in the 2007 post-poll violence. If you can make a reckless statement and say something like 2007 will be like Christmas, that is a person who ought to be jailed. That is a person who ought to be jailed without trial. But here we are, condemning Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire for defending democracy. These are people, remember, people who are chopped up by pangas, and they're trying to move the game from the game of policy, this policy that we talk about here, the things that the progressive things that are espoused in our constitution, they want to take it back to tribalism and money. And this is a warning, and I'm sorry for taking too much time. It's a warning that I will use as the basis, because we must involve ourselves in the political processes. So while money will be a great factor in the 2027 election, we are also saying that as young people, we are heavily sensitized to the fact that while we might not have the money, we have the power to exercise our sovereign rights.
Speaking of warnings, Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Deputy President, spoke about that issue just yesterday, actually. This is what he had to say. Listen.
Tunaomba kwa heshima. Itakuwa hatari kwetu, kwa nchi yetu, tukijiweka katika kampeni za mapema. Tungojea tu kidogo, siku ya kampeni itafika. Na tumesema never again. Hatutakubali nchi yetu tena ndugu ainue silaha kupiga ndugu mwingine Mkenya mwenzake, ati kwa sababu ya kabila yake, ati kwa sababu ya dini. Tuweke mambo ya wananchi mbele, tushughulikie uchumi wetu, tupendane.
Wewe unaanza kutuambia kwamba 2007 was a Christmas. Wewe kuja kupanga nini? Asira mingi. Bwana, hii kiti si ya mtu, umeshindwa. Unakuja kutuambia hapa sijui maneno ya one term. Wewe si utuambie maneno ya half term. Wewe ni half term, unaambia watu wako at one term, na wewe ni half term.
Jerry, were those statements by the former Deputy President in bad taste? As a young person, as a future leader of this country, were they in bad taste?
I knew you will have to pin that question on me by the virtue of I'm a member of DCP party. And one thing...
so you've just declared that you're a member of DCP?
Yeah, and I'm proudly a member of DCP party that we recently unveiled and will be launching in the month of June. In a location we are going to welcome all of you. And one thing that I have to say is that I think we have normalized double standards for so long that it looks like just a normal thing when we try to paint a certain statement in whatever light is going to suit the politics of that season. You know, when the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, talks about 2027, if IEBC does not do its mandate like it is mandated in the Constitution, 2007 is going to look like a Christmas party. As first, I want to engage that statement from a literature view. If you take that statement to a student in Form 2, who knows nothing about Rigathi Gachagua, who knows nothing about Faruk Kibet, who knows nothing about Kithure Kindiki, and all the political people who are playing that statement, that person will tell you Rigathi Gachagua is simply saying, if IEBC oversteps their mandate and decide to become what Parliament has been for the last 2 years, an extension of the executive, if IEBC decides to be what NCIC has been, an extension of the executive, if IEBC decides to be what the Senate has been, an extension of the executive, these are the repercussions that are supposed or can occur. You understand? And Rigathi was not trying to say that I am going to bring violence. Rigathi was simply reminding the nation where the last time people tried to manipulate the will of the people at the ballot, what happened? Today, Trevor, if I tell you, if you don't show up to work tomorrow, you are going to be fired, I am simply cautioning you, you have to report to work because that is your JD. You understand? And I really want to tell the young people, and especially those who want to take sides for political affiliations, that in as much as we can take sides every other time, we need to remember that if today something like 207 happened, most of these members of parliament will fly their families out of the country. Most of these members of parliament will maybe be watching these episodes from the underground of parliament where they were during Gen Z maandamano. But it is me and Kasamuel and Faith who will be on the street facing either the goons who are going to be on board or the brutal police brutality that is going to come and handle demonstrators. First of all, when we have seen Kenya Kwanza aligned politicians try to bring it in to look like Rigathi Gachagua committed a crime. And I am going to say this without any fear. If at all they feel Rigathi Gachagua committed a crime, or he's inside, or like NIC have said, his statements allegedly insightful and supposed to invoke emotions and violence. There is what the law says about such a situation. But then again, Kenyans are going to bring the question of, we've had members aligned to Kenya Kwanza tell us that Ruto will be the president, tupende tusipende. Kura zitoshe zisitoshe, Ruto will be the president. We've had members aligned to Kenya Kwanza tell us that there has never been a one-term president, so Ruto will not be the first one. So they are simply telling us, it's like we've not been going to an election, we've simply been going to confirm, just like you see in companies where people already know who is going to take that vacant position. They are just doing interviews for formalities. So I beg to differ with Kasamuel when he tries to tell us that, you know, somebody like Rigathi Gachagua should not be part of opposition. First of all, we are even tired of understanding ODM. We no longer know whether they're in government or they're in opposition. One morning, Kasamuel is in broad-based. The other morning, they're in a youth alliance that is trying to bring every other person in opposition down. And I have to tell Kasamuel and his colleagues who are doing the alliance, the youth alliance, one thing. We people of Kenya are quite informed. We understand that government as stands today is on its knees, and opposition is standing firmly. So we understand the government has decided to bring in projects whereby the only way government can handle a standing opposition and government is on its knees is letting some of their projects bring opposition to its knees, to the same level where government is, so that government can now be able to handle opposition. But they are again told, for you not to seem like somebody who is working for government, first start with fighting as government, because there is nothing you say that is going to win us back the already left votes that have left in our basket.
Okay.
And finally, I have to ask Kasmuel one thing. If your alliance is very honest as young people, you, Morara Kebaso, and everybody else we've seen, can you please tell Kenyans why nowadays you are getting police security in your events? Why are your events no longer being disrupted? Yet last year, we used to see any time that any of them used to stand and address any meeting, police used to be sent. Why is it that nowadays, in the heart of Nairobi County, this youth alliance no longer asked when they hold events? Why is it that nowadays, whatever they do, they have to first beat government, then finish line is Rigathi Gachagua, because the assignment is one. Rigathi is standing, government is on its knees. Opposition must be brought to the level of government so that government can be able to handle it. And I can tell them one thing. Kenyans can lead in between the lines. So if you want to continue with being a government project but purporting to be a certain new opposition that does not recognize the likes of Kina Rigathi Gachagua, Martha Karua, Wamalwa, and everybody else who is in opposition, even Kalonzo. I heard them the other time raise issues about Kalonzo and everybody else in a statement that they were giving. And people ask very simple question. The information they are trying to give is not just information you find somewhere in Kariako. This is government-given information that they are trying to paint opposition in some certain brushes. So I want to tell the young people, in this whole scenario, you need to read between the lines. Watu wasitumwe na serikali, wajifanye wako ndani ya opposition, na ni project.
So you think Kasmuel and the rest are a project? I'll give you a chance to respond to that, Kasmuel. But let me bring in Dr. Baraza on this. Dr. Baraza, we are now talking about two different issues at the same time. Will the money affect the way people vote in 2027 and the statements by the Deputy President, do you find them like a word of caution or is it incitement?
Well, let me just start by reacting to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the answer is clear, why young people are behaving the way they are. There's a bread somewhere and the bread is being battered on one side, the other side is not being battered. So if you see any gymnastics and any movements, the answer is clear. Whoever you're alluding to is moving towards the battered side. And that's a wrong thing. That's one of the things that we have to stand against. And I don't want to name call a word, but seriously, I'm going to make it clear, Trevor. Whichever youth is moving towards the battered side, we know you and we're going to deal with you. And clearly, young people have made it clear. In the next election, it's not going to just be about, like you said, tokenism, the art of doing nothing, saying a lot without doing anything. It's about really the democratic stance of this country and the future of this nation. You see, Trevor, we are in a period where I think there's a transition from old to new. And you and I agree, we've been in this country long enough to understand that there is a brand of people that are leaving the stage and young people are getting closer into power. I don't want to cite names clearly, but I think you do understand. But just to make it clear, young people, this is the most important, potent time to realize and identify yourself with the people. And the people do not walk with military on the streets. The people do not have events that are chartered with police security and all these. The people are not those that are going to be ferrying people, be ferried in all these posh cars and all that luxury of security. I mean, the people are just the people. So, back to the Deputy President's statements, I just want to make it clear. You see, we have run into a situation where we think many times and we forget that the President is not voted. You see, we have gotten so much entrapped into that ideology that we've started to think that it's actually normal for someone to say themselves into power. And that's why they keep on saying it all the time and all the time and all the time. This country, I mean, we've had elections how many times? Throughout many years. They've been contested, there have been all these talks about who's next and all that. But clearly, we have to understand that a president must be voted. And what do the people want to do right now? The people on the ground are making clear that they're going to vote out the president. They're not voting out just the president. They're voting out bad governance. So when the deputy president comes to talk, what we do, yes, we understand that he holds power and all, we use these things. But clearly, the president must be voted. And if I was in government right now, I would actually try so much to tell the president, hey, seriously, you still have time, still have 2 years. Go down there and help the people, answer the calls. I mean, make bitumen roads in Western. I'm from Western, and you look at the roads and it's so bad. Look at hospitals, it's so bad. Salaries for doctors is so bad. If government still has a chance, that's if in case they still have, they would just go back and listen to the people and do that particular cause. But I'm not going to just talk without mentioning one key important issue. That is how we are handling our diplomacy out there. I know we are focusing so much about issues right now here, but we are failing on the global scene. Just the other day, I remember there was a certain key, it was making trends all over the internet. Someone was saying they got into a room and go to see the president, go to see another top leader, and he was able to judge that the country was in the wrong hands just by the posture and the confidence and the words being said by these people. I think there was a gentleman from South Korea or something. That is in the public domain. Everyone knows that. Clearly, this country is failing at many ends. We are failing in Sudan. We are failing internationally. And now we're failing in Tanzania. Just yesterday, if a body was dumped somewhere in Mombasa, okay, live body still, Boniface Mwangi. What is really happening in this country? What is really working? Government is failing to build roads. It's failing to do all the things. Even in the diplomatic stance, we are failing. What we are so much prefixed about and discussing is about the next presidency. And funny about it, we actually think we can say a president into power. That is totally wrong. What am I thinking about as a young youth? Should I be thinking that there is no chance for the youth particularly? Should I be thinking that we are just an idle gathering of people saying nothing about, we cannot contribute anything to the future?
Yeah.
No, that's not what we did. That's not what we talked about last year on June 25th. Okay. Last year we criticized this whole opulence and all this talking about name calling, about thinking that government can be run just on the basis of sentient people that are seated somewhere in State House who think they can do whatever they want for this country. A country cannot be run like a company. Okay. A country cannot just be run about shares and who has major stakes and who said what and what. Well, democracy is built on many things, but clearly among that is the will of the people.
Yeah.
The will of the people is clear, that come next year, come 2027 particularly, we are going to have a new change of people. We're going to have a new face in the mix. And let's make it clear. I'm happy that I'm on the bench here with young people. You see these faces here? We are the face of change in this country. And I remember someone asked about what is the change for the future. We, the faces that you see here, we are the face. We are the face of that change particularly. Okay. And I can assure you, Trevor, this country, I have not lost hope. I'm not disillusioned, I'm not frustrated, like many other people there. I know we've been driven by the winds of politics, and we've been made to identify with good and bad all the time, but clearly the people will prevail.
Okay. Will they? Faith, will the people really prevail? Because you're the one who kickstarted this conversation, saying that the young people are just angry and they're venting and they don't have any substantive alternatives. And as you give your remarks on what your fellow panelists have also said, what do you consider the statement from the former Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, as? Was it a word of caution or incitement?
Trevor, thank you so much. First, I want to pick it up there from the impeached Deputy President's remarks. Njeri has talked about if you study literature, but if you listen to that message and even how he expressed himself, the body language, he was actually excited about it. He was excited about 2007 becoming Christmas in 2027, you know. So it's not something that, and it's not even remorse, is not even apologetic about it. So that is someone really don't think should be even given space to talk to the people of Kenya, to talk to a nation. That is not someone who should be given airtime to present himself in the name of bringing change or the new dawn and whatever. So that is someone that shouldn't even be allowed even to walk freely, because that is something. In 2007, I was 5 years old, and it found me in Kibra. Why are you surprised?
All right, I understand. It's okay.
And I can still remember vividly the things that happened. You know, I was just 5 years old, but I can still remember. But there is something that you talk about publicly with so much confidence, happiness. And I think, according to him, it was trying to pass that. I don't know if it was a message to the president or an insult to the people or something like that. So Rigathi Gachagua should not be an option to our country. And the young people, I know we have so many concerns, and I really know we have bigger issues like unemployment or all. But I feel we shouldn't also dismiss everything. That will be totally unfair. You know, affordable housing has created jobs, over 20,000 jobs to the young people. You know, climate works, over 30,000 jobs to young people. Ajira Digital, it's upskilling, you know, youth talent and giving them opportunities. So we shouldn't actually just criticize everything. If the same energy we are putting into criticizing, we could actually twist it to constructive criticism, I think we will have made an effort. But just going outside and always lamenting and venting things are not working, by also ignoring things that are working. And if you can really see, Trevor, the president has really taken time to listen to the young people. Last year we were out because of, the young people were out because of finance bill, you know. This year's finance bill, actually, the president has introduced new tax reform instead of adding additional taxes to the Kenyans. So it actually tells that the president leasing. But are the young people ready to engage with the president? You know, are the young people ready to listen to what the president has to say? And if we are going out there, if the young people are out there and dismissing everything, then what is the solution? So I feel we are really going to create a situation where in these jobs, the president is trying to create jobs and we are calling them informal, you know. What is wrong with having a contract for 5 years, you know, employing people for 5 years? What about the NGOs that actually give contracts to 3 years to people and they do that work and we don't call them informal, you know? So I don't see a problem with that. And I really feel that as the young people, we have so much energy. Yeah. We are very smart. You know, we are talented. We also have time, but we have the double standard that he was talking about. I think we are the messengers of double standard, because we want things to be seen from our angle, not from the angle of the other people. And the mindset that we already have, that the older generation have something against us, that is not how change comes. And this is something I want to tell the young people. We are not going to insult our way into a new Kenya. You know, that is not the way to transform things. Just insult is not enough. We will be here, 2027 will coming, and Ruto will be voted in, and he will serve. And actually, if Njeri was talking about Kasmuel and Morara and the likes, and saying, they should,
projects.
Yeah, their projects, and they should actually state their ground clearly. The same Gachagua that we are talking about here, the impeached deputy president, this is someone who even tried to upstage his boss, and right now is here talking about change and having young people running around following him in the name of, we are the ones coming in. Him himself, this guy is not even composed. He can't even compose his statements vividly. And if someone in such a position, during that time, it was clear Gachagua was very tribal. What makes you young people believe that in 2027, it will actually stop being tribal?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Koyo on this as well and hear your views. Koyo, even just from this debate alone, do you think the politics of 2027 will be any different from the way it's always been? Because you're all young people here, all vying for different positions. Again, still split. Will it change in any way?
Trevor, the silence of the youth does not mean that we have succumbed to the pressure of the current regime, and it does not mean that we have surrendered. Rigathi Gachagua, the former deputy president, must learn to tame his loose tongue. And the inflammatory remarks and the incitement that he made on that day must be condemned by any peace-loving Kenyan. The former deputy president has actually realized, and he knows, that the youth of this country, who forms close to 75% of the population, are angry, and they are choking in anger, and they are feeling disillusioned, they are feeling disenfranchised, and they are feeling hopeless by a government that they trusted. And it will be very improper for the former deputy president and his group to take advantage of the anger in the young people to incite them against the government or against an electoral system. What we are only doing as a nation, and the only thing that we can request the electoral body when it is formally constituted, is to ensure that they live by the will of the people. In as much as Rigathi Gachagua could have had a good message to pass to the government, that please don't try to interfere with the will of the people at the ballot, but I think his framing was out of place. He ought to have done it better. Trevor, let it not be lost on us that the youth of this country, today, wherever they are, they know that they have a destiny with this current regime in 2027. And if there is anything that they are only requesting God to do for them, is to temporarily suspend deaths in Kenya, because very many people are angry to go and cast their ballot in August 2027. So if death can be suspended momentarily in Kenya, then I think that will be the greatest blessing that God can give Kenyans currently. We must accept the truth that, number one, the youth of this country were butchered, the youth of this country were slaughtered, the youth of this country were murdered by a regime that they trusted. That is a fact that the government must accept. The second thing that this government must do, they must ensure that we seek justice for those who are maimed, those who are tortured, and those who are killed. They must get justice. And they must also be compensated for any injuries that were meted on them. Those who lost their lives must also get a proper compensation for the lives that were lost. And then we should now proceed to reconciliation part of it. So the truth, justice, and reconciliation bit must actually be done by the current regime so that the youth do not feel or do not carry the anger into the next political dispensation. If the president does not engage with the youth the way I see him normally, before he got elected, he was having what we used to call the county charters tours. How I wish the president could see it from the angle of where Kenyans are, that they're really feeling pain in their hearts, that innocent youths who are only protesting against a punitive finance bill lost their lives unnecessarily in the streets of Nairobi.
Yeah.
Trevor, there is no any single blood. There is no any single drop of blood. There is no any single life of a Kenyan that is worth any political ambition or worth any political position of any politician. And as a result, the president must actually realize that he is leading a population that is feeling abandoned, that is feeling hated, and they've got a lot of pain in their hearts. And as a result, the only thing that he can offer this country is to, number one, ensure that the families that lost their loved ones bring this matter to a closure by actually accepting that a mistake happened. There was a serious mistake by the government, and that their people are not feeling well, and that they must have a proper way of addressing it. If that is not done, that is now what takes us to the inflammatory remarks that Rigathi Gachagua was actually directing the country to, which is highly regrettable. We should not allow the political merchants of the state of Rigathi Gachagua, a man who was a former deputy president who enjoyed trappings of power and enjoyed lots of security services and actually has his people in government, to have such kind of repeated statements. It is highly regrettable.
All right. Kasmuel, are you a government project?
If I were to be a project, I'd be a project of two entities that I will say categorically without fear. It will be His Excellency the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga and the Orange Democratic Movement. That's why when I come to this panel, I come to speak on behalf of the Orange Democratic Movement's Youth League. That is one. I'd stopped this thing of kuanguka na watu kwa studio. But my sister Njeri is proof that light certainly travels faster than sound. She has, it is not lost on me, because you know she has confessed publicly that she is a member of DCP. When she made her analogy, it is not lost on me that she referenced a company. Remember, her party leader was the one who consistently talked about shares. And you see what happens when young people start surrounding themselves with characters like Rigathi Gachagua, who I will have to say is unfit to hold public office, even if it is the last thing I have to say. And my sister here, I do not have the time nor the crayons to explain to you how inflammatory those remarks are. Because if she made an analogy that it could only be made by a person who is as sharp as a marble, because she says, if you take that statement and take it to a Form 2 student who's studying literature, they will just hear that this is what Rigathi Gachagua meant. I speak
that it was a warning.
Pain. Because in 2007, I was 10 years old. I am a young Luo man. We were displaced. We had to move severally in Nakuru. We had to go to Eldama Ravine. We had to go to Rongo. Then we had to move to Magadi. Then finally, that's where we found peace. When I hear about someone saying this, and just yesterday, a friend of mine was telling me the way her dad lost a friend, was chopped by pangas. I cannot take this statement lightly, and you cannot use this as an example of literature, because he knows about shares. You're talking to me about a person who's beating drums of war. People died. And when I castigate Rigathi Gachagua for such irresponsible statements, I castigate the Kenya Kwanza people who say that kura zisipotosha tutajaza as well. But I will dwell on this thing, because anyone who tries to say that 2007 can look like Christmas when people were burnt in a church, you're trying to tell me that the presidency is more important to you than the nation. If we are to talk about people who've been denied power, my party leader should have the most vitriol. But he knows what good nationhood is, unlike this old man called Rigathi Gachagua, who all he knows is to insult people. All he knows is to beat the drums of war. I am saying this as a person who has seen the side effects of war. That's why I will not let it fly, regardless of what it is your party is. And I want to warn everyone in the political class. I've already sounded a warning to Mr. Farouk Kibet, who thinks that it is chic to talk about the breaking of human rights laws. And if that is what you think is a government strategy, I have to say it, because government performs better than you, who by day you're an alleged opposition, by night your people are trying to call to State House to get money and collect money in parking lots. When you hear certain people, even like Osoro, who tries to talk about Rigathi Gachagua badly so that it looks like we're on the same team, while saying that if you do not have money if you cannot support government, give money as offerings in churches and give money to people in the ground. They are trying to bring this thing back to the tribal and money-based thing. And I want to sound a warning, because I still believe the Orange Democratic Movement is going to capture power. That our members of parliament, members of the ODM, I want to speak to you directly, do not allow our party to face the things that I have seen people like Mudavadi's party face. Because when we are seated in a public gathering and a member of a different party, a party leader, just like Wajakoya, just like Morara, for example, or like Maliba, I don't believe that Njeri's party has a party leader. If another party leader can come to a function of our longest serving members and make a joke, take a jab at our Secretary General and say that, wewe Sifuna, usipo ukiendelea hivi, nitaita meeting ya founding members na tukwe, and we laugh as a people. If we can let the spokesperson of our party face ridicule from another party leader, because now he ceases to be a president. When I'm talking on behalf of the Orange Democratic Movement, I interact with the president as a party leader. If he can come to our function and make such jokes about our spokesperson, it means that in 2027, if we are not careful, if we are still the people who are shouting Kumi Bila break, we will have no party. This is, and I'm sounding a warning across the board, because we believe as the Youth League will capture the power in 2027. However, anyone, and I will say this without fear of contradiction, if these statements come out of our leaders' mouths, people who when you hear him, Rigathi Gachagua is always talking very tribally, saying that Nairobi will be controlled by Gema. I say he's unfit for office. Very tribally saying serikali ya shareholders, he's unfit for office. He's the same person who kept on saying, ukiona Raila nakataa kitu juu ni kitu mbaya. And he's the same person who encouraged all his MPs in Central to vote yes for the finance bill last year that brought us out. And that's why I'm very happy he was impeached, because he is a two-faced serpent. He's a dragon, because if you allow him anywhere close to power, he's going to bring this country to ruin. And just let me land. The chapter that talks about the executive in the Constitution, if you're thinking about this as the 10 Commandments, the 10 Commandments get to a commandment which says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The executive chapter here says, is a mirror of chapter 1, because even the writers of the Constitution saw the tempers of the time and saw that the executive is the most powerful organ. It reminds them that the executive only derives its power from the sovereign power, which is the people. If we reduce this country to a conversation about who is going to run the executive and neglect all others, we want to remind you that it is we, the people, who are sovereign. And any time people want to besmirch the personhood of Raila Amolo Odinga, to lump him, because he has always firmly stood with the people. And now we want to make other people look like, because you were impeached. An impeachment is a qualification for you to join the ranks of freedom fighters. Kazi ni kujiita chuma ya zamani na kupatia pesa watu waende comedy shows. You want to call that man a revolutionary, a man who stood for nothing. Is the man that you want to sell to us. I am here to tell you that Rigathi Gachagua is not an option. Whether you call me a government project, whether I have told you I'm a project of the right, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga and the Orange Democratic Movement, but Rigathi Gachagua is not an option for this country.
All right, let's take the feedback. There's a lot of feedback coming through. Let's see how much we can get through, and then I'll give each and every one of you just a minute for closing remarks, each and every one of you, starting with Njeri, and then we'll use the same format we've been using all the way to the end. Engineer Lazaro says, for youths to fully engage in meaningful political change, they must first abandon the habit of chasing after questionable individuals who are dishing out money from unknown sources. Okay? Gabi says, thousands of youth in this country are searching for direction, a new path, a new leadership that will carry their hopes, aspirations, and vision of an ideal Kenya forward. Nothing for the youths without the youth. Frank says the solutions Kenya needs won't come from the same old tables. They'll come through the youth daring to think differently. From climate action to digital innovation, community organizing to political leadership, young people have the tools and the urgency. Okay? Bobo Tieno says money will influence politics in 2027. And we are already seeing signs of this. The influence of money also appears to have led Kasmuel to abandon the Gen Z movement and join the ODM party. MC Rumors says, we as young people of this country are not united. We are divided by politicians along tribal lines. The youth should provide alternative leadership. The biggest problem is Mtuwetu syndrome. Gen Z revolution was an awakening for the youth. Okay? Okello Mwalimu says, in a country like ours where the electorate prioritizes deep pockets over competence, don't expect a paradigm shift in 2027. We make noise now only to end up worshipping the same plutocrats who have crippled our economy for years. Shida ni sisi na njaa yetu. Let's take that back a bit. Let's take that back to Okello Mwalimu and see what we are saying there. That's a conversation that we really should have. Should reverse it there and bring it up again. Says, in a country like ours, where the electorate prioritizes deep pockets over competence, don't expect a paradigm shift in 2027. We make noise now, only to end up worshipping the same plutocrats who have crippled our economy for years. Shida ni sisi na njaa yetu. I had to read that twice just so that we make sure you all had that. Sawe, youth can create real change if they choose to because their future lies in their own hands. Not in the hands of the political class. But a few individuals driven by short-term gains and money may fail to see this. Let's look ahead, take action to change it. Jerry, 1 minute, closing remarks.
First of all, I want to tell my friend and young person, Kasamuel, that you should never call Raila, you should never call Rigathi Gachagua an old man when ODM is being represented in Senate by a youth leader called Oburu Odinga.
That's my youth leader. I work with him in the youth
league. It is very wrong from a moral ground. Secondly, I want to tell him that you can use all vocabulary in your dictionary. You can use any type of English that you want, but Kenyans can read between lines. Kenyans can see when you're a government project. And I want to tell you and your colleagues who are trying to bring up a youth alliance that continue with the meetings that are manned by securities of this nation. Continue with the mobilization that you are doing. You get money from State House, mnaenda mnahold mikutano pale, but the end goal is one, to fight opposition. But I'll tell you one thing. When Morara Kebaso was taking photos with the same opposition that today he tells us how bad it is because he thought at the table he's going to come, get money, leave, go do his things. But he realized in opposition you have kujituma, usimame na wananchi, because in the opposition side, there is no all those things that come with power. Na nikimalizia, I want to tell Kasamuel that we, the Kenyans of this nation, are not going to sit down and allow this regime to try and change whatever we have decided as Kenyans.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, you as a young person, it's up to you to decide. And as you talk about kuanguka na Wakenya, kuanguka na watu kwa show, I am only feeling mercy for you because Wakenya wanaanguka na wewe kila siku, hatukukumbushi. So I really hope, Trevor, that the next time you can invite me and the ODM Youth League, Oburu Odinga, so that we can have a conversation of who is old, who is the young people in the Parliament and Senate, what are they doing towards this nation. And finally, as we finish, I want to tell the young people of this nation, me as a member of DCP, let us take part and parcel in party politics. Let us shape up our politics as we want this nation to look like.
All right. Dr. Baraza, 1 minute.
Who is an option? Who is an option in 2027? The option is not Rigathi, it's not Raila, it's not whoever, it's not even Kanu. It's the young people. And we just want to make it clear, even as a party, that we do believe in the wings of change that are brought by the youth. And going fast to the importance of information in this age, we want to make it clear that young people are empowered. They're empowered in terms of information. Some of them have money, some of them have the name. And in 2027, you should be ready to see very many faces take up position out there. Mimi sina shida hata ukianguka na mimi. Why? Because what have I done? Well, I'm a new face. I am clean. If anyone in this show here has offense ukianguka na yeye, then they are hiding something. There is a problem with them. But I can assure you, 50% of the people in this room, I'm saying a 50 because it's a sure bet, 50% of the people in this room are clean. And that's how young people are there. They are clean faces.
They're the people.
They are the people. There are people out there that you can rely on. We are not a failed democracy. We are not other countries. We are not all those other failed countries. We have a chance in 2027, and we're going to make things better. But I want us to shift the conversation from those faces that we've seen for a long time, because those are people that have failed our democracy for a long time. Let us come back and discuss realities. Let's talk about Mama Mboga down there. Let's talk about the roads in Western. Let's talk about the sugar factories in Zoya. Let's talk about rice. Let's talk about food on the table. Let's talk about security. Let's talk about compensation for the people that lost their lives last year. Let's talk about all these things. And until we realize that goal, we're wasting our time.
Okay.
I did not come here to debate Kasmuel. I did not come here to debate Oburu Odinga, Rigathi, or what. And I'm very sorry, but whichever young person has wasted their time discussing the old faces is actually a big disgrace to the youth. Last year, we lost our lives. Imagine Rex Masai looking at you discussing these people right now. Imagine all these. How do you feel? How do you feel when you look at yourself wasting lives that we lost last year, coming to discuss here, you're asking for a debate with Oburu Odinga? Okay. Let's just discuss roads. I want you to come here and tell me, right now, China is making cheaper roads. The US is making, this country, Portugal, is making cheaper roads. Why don't you go to these countries and get roads from these countries? Let's not waste our time. And Trevor, let me make it clear. The next time I come to this show, I want us to discuss issues of policy and how we make this country better. And that's what we do in Kanu. Just to make it, lastly, in Kanu, we are rebranding our party. We are coming with a slogan to go fresh. And I'm here just to make it clear that we invite young people into our party. I sit in the National Executive Council, and that shows what the party is up to with young people. Despite, I was only 3 years when Kanu was leaving power. But today I've come on to realize that democracy is what can save our country. The Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. And in our party, we just came off the International Democratic Union, that happened in Europe. And we had a big conversation about democracy, about what is happening in Tanzania, and all these things. And we're trying to make Kenya a better country. We're trying to follow the Constitution and the rule of law.
Faith, 1 minute.
Thank you so much, Trevor. My message to the young people out there is that I know we are frustrated. I know we are angry. I know we really want change overnight. We want to see a better country. Who doesn't want? I mean, who doesn't want that? All of us really would love to see things working. But I choose to support this government, not because it's perfect, but because it's willing to engage. It's willing to make amends. It's willing to walk this journey with the young people and the people of Kenya. So if we could put much effort also into engaging and providing solution, not just always criticizing and seeing fault in everything, that could really be better, because I'm sure the government doesn't end today. And even in 2027, I have so much faith in the government that we will still, Ruto will still be in the next government. So it's better that we start working now. And the government is so big and it's ready to embrace all voices of the youth and of watu wa chini. So let us come together, let us support the government, let us work with the government and try to offer solution, not always criticizing.
Okay, for you, 1 minute.
To all the patriotic youth out there, let no one sell you fear. Please stop agonizing and organize to take power. One thing that we are very sure about is that your uprising in the year 2024 really unsettled the old political establishment. And that is why today you see the topsy-turvy confusion that you are seeing in government is as a result of the fact that they do not actually know where the youth stands in this country. Let us organize to chase these people out of town in 2027, and let nobody tell you that if you don't have money, then you cannot run for political office. It is us who donated that political power to them. We can now reclaim that power by now voting in fresh leadership, people of integrity, and people who can prudentially manage our resources. And lastly, as the Secretary General of National Liberal Party, an affiliate in Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition, I'm requesting all the youths, please join the most progressive political party in Kenya, the National Liberal Party. Thank you.
Kasmuel, 1 minute.
If you're a young person in this country, young, old, male, female, doesn't matter your class, religion, or creed, I need to remind you that we have a democratic duty to ourselves and to the nation to do what is right. Strengthen our party. I will remind you that we cannot allow any external forces to come and meddle in our affairs, whether they be the president or they be the lowliest person, to come and take and make jest of our party. We've gotten to a point in our democracy, the democracy that we've fought for. Our party is called the Orange Democratic Movement because of the democracy. It's gotten to the point where parties like KANU feel like they have moral high ground to lecture us on democracy. Where people who used to wake up to go and kill our people, represented by in DCP, feel like they can call themselves a loyal opposition. It is time. You have fought for years, you have fought for decades for what is right for you. We went to the streets and we were killed again last year by people who are calling themselves an opposition. Let us rise. Let us rise, and starting this weekend, let us go back to remind ourselves the tenets of our party, to remind us of social justice, economic liberation, and capturing power, because it is possible. And I want to remind you, if you're listening this morning, if you have not joined the Orange Democratic Movement, which is the largest progressive pro-people party in this country, join us now. But if you are a member, I need to remind you why you're a member, that our slogan whenever we meet is ODM. Tuko tayari. Uko tayari kubadilisha nchi yako, ama utazidi kusikiza propaganda ya wale ambao wanaeneza uvumi?
Asante.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Omondi Koyo, Secretary General, National Liberal Party, Njeri Kehiga, Youth Leader, Kasmul Makoure, ODM Youth League, Faith Ken, Youth Advocate, and Dr. Derek Baraza, Secretary Political Affairs, KANU. Thank you all for making time this morning and speaking to us. This is the show that we always give the young people and the young leaders a chance to air their views on issues across the country. That's where we leave it for now. Coming up next is Ben Sue, and he has quite a number of DJs on the deck. See you in just a bit. Have a fantastic weekend ahead. My name is Trevor Ombija. Goodbye and God bless. So do we agree, Ajay? 2027?